Greetings everyone. I am Dr. Ahmed Masood Khan. My today's lecture is about India's National Biodiversity Action Plans. India has long recognized the importance of its unique and diverse ecosystems, which contribute to ecological stability, cultural heritage, and economic well-being. The National Biodiversity Action Plan further refined these strategies, prioritizing ecosystem restoration, sustainable resource use, and community participation. It also introduced a stronger monitoring mechanism to track progress effectively. Looking forward, India's updated National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan 2024 to 2030 represent a comprehensive and visionary roadmap. This plan aligns with Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, focusing on achieving ambitious goals like protecting 30% of terrestrial and marine ecosystems by 2030. Through collaboration and innovation, this updated strategy aims to safeguard India's rich biodiversity for future generations. The preparation of India's National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan began in late 1999, spearheaded by the Ministry of Environment and Forest (MOEF). This ambitious and inclusive process sought to address biodiversity in its broadest sense, encompassing natural ecosystems, agricultural landscapes, wild plant and animal species, microorganisms, crops, livestock, and the genetic diversity within these groups. The NBAP process was guided by two critical objectives. First, ensuring the ecological security of the nation and its diverse region, and second, safeguarding the livelihood security of communities that depend on biodiversity for their survival and well-being. These twin priorities ensured that the strategy balanced environmental conservation with human development. A key feature of this initiative was its deeply participatory approach. 71 biodiversity strategy and action plans were developed at local, state, regional levels. Over 50,000 people actively participated through workshops, public hearings, festivals, rallies, and other engagement activities, making the process one of the most inclusive and comprehensive biodiversity initiative globally. Moreover, the documentation of the entire process in both visual and written format ensured effective learning and transparency. This extensive documentation serves as a valuable resource for future biodiversity planning and implementation efforts. By involving stakeholders from all walks of life and creating a blueprint rooted in community engagement, the NBAP laid a strong foundation for India's biodiversity conservation efforts, integrating traditional knowledge with the modern ecological science. India's National Biodiversity Action Plan (NBAP) 2008 outlined strategies for biodiversity conservation, sustainable use, and benefit sharing. An addendum in 2014 aligned it with global Aichi targets. The 2019 update addressed climate resilience and ecosystem restoration. The 2024 to 2030 NBAP aligns with an Kunming Montreal framework, focusing on adaptive strategies for biodiversity and sustainable developments. All plans are available online as a PDFs. The National Biodiversity Action Plan was formally approved by the Union Cabinet on 6 November 2008, marking a significant milestone in India's commitment to biodiversity conservation. The NBAP provides a comprehensive framework for action, enabling a wide range of stakeholders, including the policymakers, conservationists, local committees, and the public to work together towards achieving the three key objectives of the Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD). The first objective focus on the conservation of biodiversity, safeguarding India's vast and unique ecosystem, species and genetic resources. The second objective emphasizes the sustainable use of biodiversity components, ensuring the ecosystem, species, and genetic resources are utilized in a way that meets present needs without compromising future generations. The third objective calls for the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the utilization of biodiversity, fostering inclusivity and justice in biodiversity governance. Under Section 36 of the Biological Diversity Act 2002, the central government is empowered to develop a national biodiversity action plan. This legal foundation underscores the central role of the NBAP in operationalizing biodiversity related objectives at the national level. The implementation of the NBAP is therefore crucial for achieving the goals of the CBD in India. By providing a strategic roadmap, the NBAP ensures that biodiversity conservation and sustainable use are not only prioritized but also integrated into national policies and programs, reinforcing India's commitment to ecological sustainability and community well-being. The National Biodiversity Action Plan (NBAP) 2008 is a comprehensive framework aimed at conserving India's biodiversity, ensuring sustainable use and equitable benefit sharing. Chapter 1 highlights the importance of biodiversity for ecological balance, cultural heritage, and livelihood, setting the foundation for action. Chapter 2 Introduction discusses India's biodiversity wealth and the need for a strategic plan aligned with the Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD). Chapter 3 identifies key challenges including habitat loss, overexploitation, invasive species, pollution, and climate change. Chapter 4 defines goals such as strengthening conservation efforts, sustainable use, and enhancing community participation. Chapter 5 Action Plan proposes strategic action including in situ and ex situ conservation, climate adaptation, biodiversity governance. Chapter 6 Metrics for implementation. It outlines a detailed framework for monitoring progress, assigning responsibilities, and mobilizing resources to achieve these goals effectively. The National Biodiversity Action Plan (NBAP) 2008 begins with preamble that underscores the importance of biodiversity to India's environmental, economic, and cultural fabric. It stresses the country's responsibility to conserve its rich biodiversity in line with its commitment under the Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD). In the introduction, the plan outlines India's remarkable biodiversity, including diverse ecosystems, species, and genetic resources. It identifies critical threats such as habitat loss, overexploitation, and invasive species that contribute to biodiversity decline. The chapter also highlights the essential role of traditional knowledge systems in conservation, advocating for an integrated cooperative approach to address biodiversity challenges and ensure sustainable management for future generations. Chapter 3 of National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 outlines key challenges threatening India's biodiversity, habitat fragmentation, degradation, and loss, along with shrinking genetic diversity, disrupt ecosystem, and species survival. Overexploitation of natural resources continues to deplete the resource base, compromising long-term sustainability. The spread of invasive alien species further harms native biodiversity by outcompeting indigenous species. Climate change and desertification worsen these issues, altering habitat and threatening species. Development projects, often driven by urbanization and infrastructure, contribute to habitat destruction and environmental degradation. Gaps in biodiversity information base limit effective conservation efforts, while emerging biotechnologies pose potential risks to genetic diversity. The economic valuation of biodiversity and natural resource accounting remains underdeveloped, hindering comprehensive policy making. This chapter also highlights the need for improved policy frameworks, legal measures, and enhanced institutional capacity to address these diverse threats effectively. Chapter 4 Objectives of the National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008. It outlines key goals to guide India's biodiversity conservation efforts. These include strengthening in situ, on-farm, ex situ conservation to protect species in their natural habitats and through managed conservation programs. It emphasizes the augmentation of the natural resource base and promoting its sustainable use. The plan aims to ensure inter and intra-generational equity, sharing biodiversity benefits fairly across current and future generations. It also focuses on regulating invasive alien species and their management to prevent harm to native ecosystems. The objectives call for the assessment of vulnerability to climate change and desertification with strategies for adaptations. Additionally, the plan seeks to integrate biodiversity concern into economic and social development, ensuring sustainability. Addressing pollution impacts on biodiversity is another key objective. Action plan outlines specific steps to implement these objectives, including policy reforms, resource mobilization, and community involvement. National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 outlines essential steps for effective biodiversity management. It emphasizes the development and integration of biodiversity databases to support decision making and conservation strategies at national and regional levels. Strengthening the implementation of policies, legislative and administrative measures is crucial to ensure the enforcement of biodiversity conservation laws across sectors. The plan also calls for building national capacities to enhance the skill of government agencies, NGOs, and local communities in biodiversity conservation and sustainable use. It stresses the valuation of biodiversity goods and services, encouraging the incorporation of biodiversity's economic value into decision-making process. The use of economic instruments like subsidies, taxes, and payments for ecosystem services is promoted to incentivize conservation efforts Lastly, international cooperation is emphasized, promoting partnership with the other nations and organizations to tackle global biodiversity issues, exchange knowledge, and enhance capacity. Chapter 6, Metrics for Implementation. National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 provides a detailed framework for executing the plan's key activities. It includes a tabulated matrix outlining specific actions, their corresponding time frames, and the responsible implementing agencies. The matrix serves as a practical guide, ensuring the timely and coordinated execution of biodiversity conservation efforts across various sectors. Each activity is categorized by priority and assigned a clear timeline for completion, ranging from short-term, medium to long-term goals. The matrix also identifies the implementing agencies, which include government ministries, state departments, research institutions, NGOs, and local communities. These agencies are tasked with carrying out specific action such as habitat restoration, policy enforcement, and biodiversity monitoring. So this structured approach ensures effective resource allocation, accountability, and process tracking, facilitating the successful implementation of the NBAP's objectives. The Addendum 2014 to the National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 introduced 12 national biodiversity targets to enhance biodiversity conservation efforts. One key target is raising awareness among a significant portion of the population, especially our youth, about the value of biodiversity and sustainable practices. Another target emphasizes the integration of biodiversity values into national and state planning process, development programs, and poverty alleviation strategies. The addendum also focuses on developing strategies to reduce the degradation, fragmentation, and loss of natural habitats. Identifying and managing invasive alien species is another priority, with plans to address their impact on ecosystems. Additionally, the addendum calls for adopting a sustainable management practices in sectors like agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, ensuring these industries contribute to biodiversity conservation while maintaining their productivity. These targets aims to guide India towards a more sustainable and biodiverse future through coordinated multi-sectoral efforts. The Addendum 2014 to the National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 outlines key targets to enhance biodiversity conservation. One major target is the expansion of area-based conservation measures, aiming to cover over 20% of the country's geographic area through integrated landscape and seascapes. This ensures a connected and more resilient ecological network. Another target focuses on preserving the genetic diversity of cultivated plants, farm livestock, and their wild relatives, along with other culturally, economically valuable species, safeguarding biodiversity in agriculture and rural communities. The addendum also emphasizes the need to quantify ecosystem services, especially those related to water, human health, and livelihoods. ensuring their role in recognized in planning and decision making. Additionally, it highlights the importance of ensuring fair and equitable sharing of benefits from use of genetic resources in line with the Nagoya Protocol promoting sustainability and benefiting local communities. These targets guide India's efforts towards long-term biodiversity conservation. The Addendum 2014 to the National Biodiversity Action Plan NBAP 2008 sets important targets to strengthen biodiversity conservation efforts. One key target is to make the National Biodiversity Action Plan operational through an effective, participatory and updated approach, ensuring its alignment with the national priorities and implementation at local level. It also aims to make strong national initiatives that support traditional knowledge of communities for biodiversity conservation, recognizing the role of indigenous practices. Another important goal is to increase the availability of financial, human and technical resources to support the effective implementation of the strategic plan for biodiversity, ensuring that adequate support is available for long-term conservation. Furthermore, the addendum stresses the need to establish linkage between the actionable points of NBAP 2008 and the 12 national biodiversity targets, ensuring that both plans work in harmony to achieve a comprehensive and sustainable biodiversity outcomes across India. India's National Biodiversity Action Plan provides a comprehensive framework for conserving the country's biodiversity, aligning with national and global conservation goals. The plan stresses the integration of biodiversity concern into our national and state planning process, ensuring that environmental, social, economic factors are aligned for effective conservation. Both the NBAP 2008 and its 2014 addendum highlights the crucial role of local communities and traditional knowledge, promoting their active involvement in conservation efforts. Clear, measurable targets and actionable plans are outlined to address key threats like habitat degradation, invasive species, and loss of genetic diversity, ensuring focused effort toward conservation. The plan also underscores the need for increased resources, emphasizing the mobilization of financial, technical, human resources for capacity building and implementation. This integrated multi-stakeholder approach ensures that India's biodiversity is conserved sustainably for current as well as for future generations. Thank you all for being such an engaged and enthusiastic audience. I look forward to having more interesting discussions in the next lecture. Thank you all.